great creative, a great talent, one of the greatest talents that we have right now in Mexico, not just because of the art and the work she produces, but because of what she, her team, and all these associations that you're going to meet today are doing for the industry. Please welcome, and she is directing her first feature film. Please welcome Alejandra Perez.
Hello. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Well, we're very excited here because we are, I don't know if you've heard of MUMA, Mujeres en el Mundo de la Animación, and this is the first time that we're going to be having a panel with WIA, Women in Animation. And so, yeah. So, first of all, thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Pixelatl. And now, Chris, also thank you so much. And now let me introduce our panelists. To my left, we first have Julianne. And let me tell you about Julianne. He joined the Walt Disney Studios in February 2017 as Vice President, Multicultural Audience Engagement. She was most recently Google's Entertainment Industry Educator-in-Chief, leading their efforts to shift diversity on-screen perceptions of computer science through storytelling, a position she created. Yeah? So previously, she worked at NBC Universal, managing behind-the-camera diversity programs, including Writers on the Verge and the Directing Fellowship. Her journey is coming full circle at Disney, where she began her career as a Pixar Animation Studios production intern, working on the WALL-E DVD and Up promos. Most recently, I know, it's like... Most recently, she was named to the Hollywood Reporter's prestigious Next Gen 35 Under 35. So you're also young. Wow. And she serves on the boards of National Association of Latino Independent Producers. Awesome. And Woman in Animation of Cuban and Puerto Rican heritage. Julianne was raised in Atlanta, Georgia, and earned her bachelor's, bachelor's degree? BFA, in English and Harvard University. So there you go. That's Julianne for you. Then we have Marge Dean. Marge Dean. She is an Emmy-winning producer, executive, and as head of the studio at Skybound Entertainment, she is responsible for the development and production of original animated content and is establishing a new production facility for the production of Skybound properties, including Invincible for Amazon Prime. Now, for building studios and animation pipelines, Dean was responsible for the design or redesign of several studios, including Columbia TreeStar TV, Warner Brothers Animation, Mattel's Playground Production, Omation, which is by Steve Oederk, Technicolor Animation, and Wildbrain Entertainment. Prior to joining Skybound, Dean was the head of Crunchyroll Studios, the largest anime streaming platform in the world, where she supervised production and development of Crunchyroll original series premiering in 2020. So lots of stuff. Then in 2014, no, really, here comes what I like. In 2014, a group of women led by Dean took over the non-profit advocacy group Women in Animation, revitalizing it. Membership grew from 120 people over to 4,500 in 5 years. That's awesome. Primarily powered by volunteers, WIA has grown into a world-class advocacy organization impact the lives of creative women, transgender, and non-binary people around the world. Awesome. And then from our Mexican part of the WIA chapter, we have Renata García Patiño. She is a story artist, illustrator, and has more than 8 years of experience. She has worked in animation studios like Anima, Photosynthesis, Picpax, Mighty Animation, among many others. Doing storyboard, character design, etc. She is also a teacher and currently teaching storyboard at Escena University. And also a fundamental part of MUMA, obviously. And last but not least, we have Alma Canchola. So Alma, she is very multitasking artist. She has worked on 2D, 3D as a layout artist, but also all kinds of stuff, working since 2010, part of the crew of studios like Caxan Studios, Anima Studios, IE Animation, Huevo Cartoon. Most of those have been aired on Nickelodeon and Netflix, most of the shows she has worked on, Cartoon Network, and recently she has made the jump to the animated productions in Canada and is part of the crew of Yeti Farm Creative, another Nickelodeon project. So there you go. Yeah. So now it's time to talk about the topic of the talk that we're going to be having. So this is mostly about discrepancy between female animation students and professional women and the inclusion in all the projects and studios, obviously in Mexico, Latin America, and in the US. So anywhere from 70 to 80% of animation students identify as women, but only 30 and as few as 20% of professionals working in the field identify as women. Although that is a very shocking figure, it's a major symptom of a field that for too many decades has not looked beyond the binary when it comes to creating an industry that encourages people of all gender identities to share fully in the creation, production, and rewards of animation. Today, we will look at what is currently preventing women from reaching their potentials, how organizations like WIA and MUMA are shining a light on the disparity, and why studios should take a pledge to hire more marginalized people. So, first question, WIA and MUMA have been working for some time to help obtain gender justice within the animation industry. While there has been positive movement in the last several years, what is it like to still hear there is such a disparity between animation students and animation professionals? Maybe, Julie, we can start with you.
Sure. Are we on?
Oh,
Hello?
the mic of Julie.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
There you go.
Hello? Hello? I mean, oh, hey, ahí, okay, perfect.
There you go.
Hola, hola. Julian Cromet Pardo Web González de Corey Club for my full name. There you go.
There you go.
Hey. Para que tú lo sepas, puertorriqueña, mira. Hey. Y cubana, mira. You can't even. I will get hit by my mom if I don't say mira cubana. Pero it's such an honor on multiple. I just want to say it's such an honor on multiple levels to be here como Latina in a room with all of you. This is it's very emotional to see everybody together. So thank you. Gracias a ustedes. And just a clarification, I actually left Disney last year and I have 2 of my own companies, including a consulting firm in DEI called Collective Moxie, and I partner with Jinko Goto on producing animation now. So come talk to us. Cookies and
better.
You know, for me, I think that, and I'll speak more broadly too, because I work in diversity, equity, and inclusion even more broadly by the way my pronouns are she, her, and ella. I think what is, it is both optimistic and frustrating at the same time because we're seeing movement. We've seen the numbers actually move in the right direction. It's just not moving fast enough. And I think that it's the balance and change work always for me, right? Which is that we have to keep pushing and pushing, which is also getting exhausting, which I'm sure anybody feel a bit exhausted these days for a lot of reasons. Yeah. You're not alone, so take that. But I think that something I try to think about all the time, and I try to get reflective on it, was that we are on a long journey that has to be both urgent but building for the long game, meaning that we have to be building cathedrals that we may never actually see the finished construction of, but that's sort of the whole point, because people came before us to enable us to be able to fight the fight we're fighting today, so that the people after us can fight a better fight, right, and a newer fight down the road, right? So that was exciting. Hello? Okay, there we are. Those were the ancestors saying hello. That's what I'm going to say. We were invoking them. But that when I think about where we are on the progress journey, it is both frustrating and optimistic because of that, because I think that is the push and pull of change work, that we are building on what has already come before us, and then we have to build and accelerate so it's easier for the folks after us, and then they keep pushing. Maybe even fights and opportunities we can't even see today because we're not even there yet. You know what I mean? And so that's where my mind goes as I think about that push and pull of progress, but maybe not the urgency where we're at, if that's helpful. Yeah.
Definitely. If you want.
Hello. Gotta turn me on.
Hello.
There we are. And the question is why, right? Why is there this discrepancy?
Let's go for that. Why?
And now I can't answer that question. But I think the thing I'm thinking about, and I keep thinking about all the time in this issue, is that, our approach with women in animation is basically always been a two-prong approach. One prong is we have to change the system. We have to look at what are the systemic structures that are in place that are, either not seeing the talent that is coming out of all these women students from schools, or women and underrepresented folks who are expressing an interest to be in our industry, and then also look at the internal issues that are happening. And in WIA, I think our programs are very much split between advocating with the industry to change how they see people, how they think about hiring, how they think about what talent is and what good talent is, what stories they want to tell. But also, and it's my preferred part of the work that we do, to actually work with the women and underrepresented folks to be able to gain that confidence, to see that they're entitled to tell a story, to see that they are talented and have something to share with the world, which I think, even though it sounds like obvious statements, I think the majority of young women and all age folks that I meet are not able to really recognize that in themselves. So I think that, for me personally, is the really important battle, to be able to get women to recognize that they have something to say and are entitled to say it.
Yeah. Let's see. Renata, there are cultural and internalized barriers that many of us place upon ourselves without even realizing, like Marge was saying. What are some of those barriers, and how can we begin to dismantle them? Just briefly.
Well, for a start, we have noticed over here with MUMA that there's some things that we have like the same problems in all over the world, and some things that are really like particular to our context in Latin America, right? So the first thing that we have noticed when we started to do our research and we started doing this movement was that in our situation, Mexico has like a particular good spot right now because the industry is quite young. So even though there's still like a bridge, it's not as wide as in other moments in our lifetime. So right now it's like, okay, we are in a good spot, but what is holding us back? Because we noticed that there's quite a lot of women and men working at like starting, but when we start to move like up, the women start to be less and less in those positions. So when we started to work on this, we have noticed that one of the biggest factors is imposter syndrome, which is a subject that we have talked quite a lot in MUMA, and we also know that issue. And even though imposter syndrome is a fact, something that it affects all of us. We have noticed that in at least our research, it's proven that women are they let it hold them back for longer, like they're wanting to always start be perfect for the position, or they are holding back. Maybe next year I'm going to apply. No, well, maybe when my portfolio is nicer, I don't know. So, and it's something that is reflected in the numbers and when we have talked with our colleagues. So it's something that we're fighting against, trying to make women and all genders feel more comfortable, proving their worth. And also in Mexico, especially there's gender bias that we have to fight because we're still pretty conservative. Our industry, it's quite they have newer ideas because we are younger and we are with more fresh ideas, but still there's some stuff that are cultural that are affecting us. So there's these ideas that maybe women are going to leave their jobs because they want to start a family earlier, or no, they prefer production because they're more organized. They don't really want the whole shtick of being director of something. Those are ideas. I'm sure most of people over here is no, that's not me. I don't believe in that, and I'm totally agree. But culturally, it's in the mindset of the people. So it's something that we need to work to change and to demonstrate that we have more to we don't want these biases to hold us back. So yeah.
Right. Just like Julie said, it's exhausting, but we still have to keep doing it because otherwise, what, are we supposed to stop and then continue just doing nothing? No, we have to keep making noise, So, okay, so now I wanted to ask Alma, tell us, for example, the things that we can do to face all of these, to make women become leaders. For example, this is tricky. I wanted to talk about the workshop. And then I want to ask WIA also what their efforts on creating programs or whatever to make women leaders or get all of that. But okay, Alma, because you haven't talked.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming here. And I also want you guys to know that everything that we're talking about when we talk about Mexico, it's because of you guys, girls especially, that you answer our survey on the web. So we're encouraging you to do it next year so we can keep doing better for you guys, okay? So let's talk about Mexico. I'm very happy to tell you guys that even though, these great women said, we do have kind of same problems, There's a gap between genders working. It still's been a gap between gender identities and diversity, still, but we're not that bad. We're on our way to make it better. We're in time because we're young, okay? So the first thing we gotta do to make things different, it's to talk about it, like we're doing now, having this conversation, having this discussion, because we do exist, gender identities are real. We are diverse. Women, we want to be leaders. Maybe we don't feel prepared, but we want to. And if we begin to talk about our insecurities or the things we want to show and we want to create, that's the start, okay? So that's the first thing that we're doing, is starting a dialogue. Then, us like organization, what we try is to make spaces for you, for women, for diverse identities, to experience what we think you guys need to be better in that it's experience. You got to experience leadership. So that's why we're creating dynamics and workshops so you girls can experience that. There's nothing glamour in it. It's something that you gotta learn. Or it's just an experiment. And then we think we have to create more, to get together to create more and tell more stories. So the things that we are doing now, maybe it's not quite big, but we're starting like trying to show you how to do it so you don't make the same mistakes that we did when we start, and the path it's faster and easier for you. So if you guys want help, we will be there for you, but we need you to be paying attention and participate in the things we do, because if you don't, we can't get further. So
Yeah, so basically, if you find us annoying, sorry, but we're gonna keep pushing everybody to just at least try it, right? Maybe it's not your thing, but you give it a try. And it's about telling different stories, because I don't know about you guys, but it's kind of boring. We keep hearing about the same stories over and over again. And so there's a question here about that. So for example, Pixar's Turning Red broke several records, including bringing together the studio's first all-female creative leadership team, which was streamed a whopping 1.701 billion minutes in its first week and received universal acclaim. So that's a lot for streaming, why didn't it release it in theaters? I don't know, we all discussed this, right? And we're like, whatever. But yeah, so what does a film like this, like Turning Red, demonstrate to the audience and studios? Let's begin again with Julie.
Absolutely, and then Marge and I can talk a little bit about on the WIA front, in terms of bringing community together. I think that, so I had the pleasure of working with the Turning Red team when I was at Disney, and there were so many incredible things about that production that I think should be said explicitly, right? It was the all-female senior leadership team on the production, every single senior post. It was intentionally from the beginning, Domi knew the story she wanted to tell and what she wanted to get across, and that she wanted to talk about, puberty. She wanted to talk about the intergenerational sort of trauma and relationships between mothers and daughters, and particularly in her experience of being Chinese Canadian. And I think also from that get-go and that clarity of story, because I think it always comes from that, was the notion that they wanted to do the production differently too. And I know for a fact that they organized the actual structure of production differently to be more effective, and they came in on time and on budget. And what I think is incredible about that is they led a diverse team, doing it effectively and thinking inclusively about what that meant, right, and being intentional about it. And then the results we saw on the other end were undeniable.
Yeah.
This is, if you ever wanted a creative and business case for how it works, Turning Red is a great example of that, right? Because you have to look at the whole process. It's not just you all know this, it's not just the finished project. It's what happened in the years leading up to that moment, and then it connected with the audience. Right. Because it was authentic, it was intentional, and it was done from a process perspective with all of that in mind and collectively. And I cannot say that enough. You were saying about how do we come together, right? It's about that collective intentionality and collective action that actually makes the difference at the end of the day. And so for me, Turning Red is such a great example of that. Beyond the themes around gender and puberty and all the other things, I think it's that to me is what it meant when the collaboration and the intentionality sung and was in one choir, if you will, and the song we got on the other end was something better than we could have imagined individually. So for me, that to me is the power connected to those results, right? So that's Turning Red in my eyes on so many levels. And then I don't know if, Marge, we want to talk a little bit too about the WIA side of it in terms of how we're bringing together folks, from the mentorship and all the other things
Right.
we're doing from a collective standpoint.
Right. No, I was actually thinking about that and a little bit of our conversation earlier about leadership and thinking about leadership differently than the way we think about it now, which is I think we ordinarily think of a leader who is one person who takes everybody out and says, follow me. And, you know, and our image of that is usually a male person. And I think what we're finding is the real power of networking and developing leadership in a sort of networking kind of way. And we have a very robust mentorship program, which I hope either many of you have participated in, and if you haven't, you can. And just go to the Women in Animation website and you can sign up. In fact, I think mentees are registering now. So if it's something, you should just rush right to the website and check it out, because there's some amazing opportunities there. But the thing that we figured out actually was COVID. Once COVID hit and we had to do everything virtually, and we decided we wanted to continue our mentorship program. We had up until that point been doing mentoring on a one-on-one basis. But we decided we needed to reach more people. We were only able to mentor maybe 25 people a year. And so we were like, we have to do something different. So we started to form mentoring circles. And so we have one mentor with a group of anywhere between 5 and 12 people. And they form these little groups that meet on a regular basis over like a 6-month period, working closely with the mentor. But the unexpected bonus that came out of that was that these started becoming little pockets of networks that were formed. And that we realized, again, was not our plan, but it was like, wow, look what we did. We just started planting these little network seeds that then grew. And many of these groups still today, like people who met 3 years ago, still today are, you know, in connection with each other, helping each other, and building their own, you know, their career, their program, whatever it is that they're doing. And that power of the sort of, you know, the network, the collective, became really obvious. And I think that is one of our main approaches to developing leadership among women, is because once you're in there and you feel the support of other people, you know, you're able to actually step out and start doing stuff if you have like other people helping you and supporting you. And it's a new form and a new shape of leadership.
Yeah, we've been it's a really great program. If you guys have chance, just get in there in the We Are Animation. We've been part of it with the mentorship, and as she said, it's like here in Pixelatl you can see, right? It's a lot of communicating with everybody. Now you know who these women are. You can approach to them, and it's just maybe a small connection of something, like you're saying. It's all about connection and communicating, and that's what We Are is able to do. We're following that example a lot with our workshops, and hope to keep doing. Those are the efforts that we have to do, right? Basically.
You know, something I always say is that change work is a team sport.
Yeah. Nice.
Change work is a team sport. We're a football team, right? Is a foot, right? We have to, everybody plays their part on the field. And in that, we're able to win, we're able to move forward, we're able to push the system, right? In different ways. But it's a team sport. And I think we have to keep thinking about it that way, as opposed to at the individual
exactly.
level. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And animation, it's all about that, you guys. So there you go.
If I can add something, you know, and this might almost sound like a contradiction of what I just said, because I do believe that networking is really key, and being part of a team and feeling the support of a community is vital. But I also believe at the same time that recognizing that your career is your responsibility.
Yeah.
And like you need to, and it's not something that happens to you, it is something that you drive yourself. And so, and that's, I mean, networking is a key part of that. Like that's how you're going to get help and how you're going to move forward. But like you have to be very intentional. Like you have to decide. I think that's we were talking about women who do things first. And I think one of the big steps that happens for when you become a pioneer in something is that you make a decision that this is what you want to do. And it sounds like an obvious thing, but it's really a very profound decision. So if you commit to, I'm going to have a career in animation, which is what I think you know, a large percentage of the women go to school, it doesn't happen for them immediately, which it doesn't really actually happen for anybody immediately. They're just like, you know, they don't take that step of making the decision that no matter what, I am having a career in animation. And so, so I do think there's an individual choice and decision that needs to get made.
Definitely. Now I wanted to talk a bit about the non-binary, transgender, because I have to be honest, we in MUMA, we haven't seen that much response here in Mexico. Let's talk about the difference culturally here in Mexico and in the US. The question goes like this. What are some unique issues that are faced by the women, non-binary, and gender-fluid professionals in, let's start, sorry, you guys haven't spoken, just a second. Let's start in the US. What are some of these unique issues faced by?
Well, I think it's really interesting. We have had some, I think, some of the best and most profound conversations with members in the non-binary and trans community who came to us and held us to account in a beautiful way. They called us in. This is one of the most important things. Is one thing is to call people out. Another thing is to call people in. And they called us in and they said, we feel like we're a part of this community, but the language on your website, the way the organization communicates about itself, does not have us in there. And we want to be a part of this community and we feel a part of WIA. So can we work with you to make that change? And that's what we're working on right now. Very intentionally, you'll see our language has started to shift on the website, all of that. And that came from the members coming to us and saying, let's have that conversation and let's move the ball forward. And I think it's because there's some really fundamental things going on right now, which is that when you think about gender justice, right, this broader concept of gender justice, that's exactly what it means, which is it's justice around this concept of gender and where power and privilege have lived when it comes to gender. And it's always been ascribed, you know, in any of our modern times, for the most part, to maleness, right? And if you intersect it with race, to whiteness, right, to Europeanness, many other things, right? Mm-hmm. And I think when, you know, our members came to us and said, we are a part of that same struggle, of that same fight, because we're being discriminated against because we don't fit in the traditional gender binary in the same way. And in fact, in the trans community, the binary is very important, right? Because it's about finding and associating with your actual identity, right? And in the non-binary community, not ascribing necessarily to the binary. And so we have to sort of say, okay, how are we going to be approaching this that is truly an inclusive, you know, argument of why we have to shift the power from just being ascribed to one area of gender and to being ascribed across the gender spectrum, as opposed to necessarily thinking about it as a male-female argument. And I think for us, that has been both an unlocking conversation in many ways, but one of gratitude, because I cannot say enough about how much it meant for our own members to come and have that conversation with us. And I think it's transforming the entire framework of how we've been thinking about gender justice at a very base level. And quite frankly, I actually think it's transforming the world in how we're thinking about gender justice. So just to say to anybody in this audience who identifies as trans or identifies as non-binary, you are part of this community. You are here, and we see you in every way. And we are truly in this together. So when we talk about the collective, it also means that.
Yeah.
Which is that we've got to break some of these mores, these frameworks that are not working.
Yeah.
And make it about all of us moving forward together so that we can redistribute that power and we can really make that change and impact through storytelling that we believe so deeply.
Exactly.
That's it. Yeah.
That will be awesome. Different stories. That's what we were talking because we did our encuesta. How do I say encuesta in English?
Tax?
Yes.
Yeah. Encuesta, what are you thinking?
Survey. Thank you.
Survey, thank you. I was thinking impuestos, sorry.
Sorry. So when we did our survey, honestly, we're more focused, and the most people who answered were obviously students And we were reading these questions and we were like, wait, the non-binary and all of this, we haven't really touched about it. Oh, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to chime in because in Mexico we're still like getting to know the community in that way because, for example, over here in Mexico it has been like it's a process, right? Like culturally all over, it's getting like these conversations are happening since the 2010 or something like that, and so we're more starting to understand what gender identity means. So in MUMA we have like been aware of it since the moment that we started, but it's true that we're still like trying to understand where we're standing in that situation, right? Like where the community, in which positions they are, what are their interests and their stories they want to tell. So I just wanted to like add that we know that in Mexico, like the struggle is like, it's different in a way because like I said before, culturally we still are like struggling with other issues that make it even harder right now. But like we are trying to also embrace and invite to all our workshops or events and to be a part of it and be like open. We're open to all the conversation and to get to know you guys better. That's it.
And I just want to add that if we are here for you. And we don't want to talk from perspective, okay? We want to talk from your eyes, from your shoes. So we want to be able to know how to help you if you don't come close and you don't tell us what is broken so we can fix it. So we are planning to do more things to make all voices to be heard. So pay attention to us and help us to make this faster and better for you guys. That's
yeah,
it.
feel open. Definitely. All right. So, what are some of the most impactful changes you've seen when it comes to gender parity within the industry, like already in the industry? Like, do you see some good changes? Maybe, honestly, maybe in the US, you guys have more of this because I don't really know. Oh.
No, I'd say no, not necessarily.
Oh, okay.
The industry's bigger, so maybe, more people get noticed, but I don't think percentage-wise, the shift has, there have been changes. Definitely when we took over in 2013, we were sitting at 20% of women being in creative roles to now we're sitting at 30%, so it's something, but as Julianne said earlier, it's not fast enough for us. We really have a goal of 50-50 by 2025.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be a challenge to hit that number. But the interesting statistic that I think is the most promising is that in the people who are tracking this, they're looking at new hires, and that new hires are actually 45% women.
Okay.
And that's a significant number because, if you think about it, it's like all of the people who are coming in, like there's a big increase in gender underrepresented people coming in, and really it's just a matter of time for that number to start shifting the overall balance as, people age out of the industry. So that's promising.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a promising thing too is, and we've seen this within WIA as well, is really starting to try to approach the conversations around data, the conversations of how we're understanding what's actually happening from an intersectional lens as well, which is to say intersecting, sexuality, intersecting race and ethnicity, intersecting socioeconomic background, like all of the different pieces of the puzzle, because you have to understand the whole story. If we're seeing that shift, but the shift, for example, in the United States is not happening for Latinas, or queer identifying individuals, or black women in the same way, that is something we need to be paying attention to, because we have to be bringing everybody. We have to all be moving together. And I think part of, at least that gives me hope, is that we're starting to much more talk about things in that way. And so as the language shifts and as the attention is shifting with the data, that also gives me hope that we can actually make impact and that we can also move the needle, if you will, in that direction that's far more inclusive. Because I think for so long, everything was sort of tracked separately. You know, gender over here, race and ethnicity over here, maybe LGBTQ plus identity, right, maybe, and some other things. And I think that now it's at a point where you can't ignore like the whole picture. And that for me is a huge change, even though in the last few years, honestly. And that also gives me hope that then we can actually push the ball forward, because you cannot change what you don't measure, what you don't understand is going on. And so if we're not doing it right, then we're not going to actually move it in the right ways. So I think that for me is giving me a lot of hope, and hopefully, you know, feels much more hopeful to you all in terms of where we're going in the conversation and the change. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. One thing that we have been doing for the last, I don't know, year and a half, I think, is in Los Angeles, focused at this point, but we formed a coalition of all of the different advocacy groups in order to have like collaboration among us. So, you know, we have Black in Animated, with Latinx in Animation. There's a group that's Exceptional Minds, which is for people who are on the spectrum. You know, it's a wide variety of folks that we've brought together, and, you know, to share all the work that we're doing, share resources, share experiences, and you know, and we've been doing this a little bit longer than a lot of the other groups, so there's extra resource that we're able to bring and support the growth of these other industry, you know, other advocacy groups. And it's been really important, and I think a big step for us in line with what you're talking about, of having the conversation as one big conversation rather than these little silo, you know, issues that then sometimes become conflicting, you know, where people are like, oh, well, you get this, but then I don't get it. And it's like, not about that.
No, it's all about, like you said, the teamwork. Exactly. Okay, so maybe now, before we go into questioning, it says, what is some advice that you can give not only the up and upcoming students looking to become part of this industry, but also the industry leaders and decision makers within our field? Maybe now Ren or Alma can begin, like some advice.
Sorry, the last one?
Yeah, no worries. Some advice for students or upcoming students looking to become part of this industry. How to get in, how to, and also the industry leaders. If you want first advice to the students, and then.
Okay, let's be real, okay? When you guys are studying, let's talk about kind of numbers. If we have 100 students, 60 of them are women, and the rest are guys. When we do the comparative, when they get to jobs, that number flips, okay? So that means that we still have a gap. Not all women that are studying and are entering to the professional side, okay? And we would love to tell you that we know exactly why that's happening, but we're not sure about it. We do have hypotheses that I'm gonna tell you, like advices for you to make this better, okay? The thing is, when you guys end studying and you see a job offer, like most of them said, most of the girls are like, I'm not perfect for this opening, you know? Maybe I'm not gonna, you know, write and apply because I'm not perfect to it. I don't cover everything. But the guys are more brave, and they say, I don't mind. I'm gonna try, you know? I fit the 50% and I'm gonna try. And that's worth it. That's why they entering more. So what I'm gonna ask you girls is that you don't be afraid. Even if you don't have all of it, apply. Because you're gonna be learning while you are doing it. You don't have to be perfect, okay? So be braver. That's the first thing.
Give it a try. And I guess now. Oh,
Okay.
okay. And I guess now some advice for the industry leaders, if they are listening to us somewhere, about this inclusion.
Well, from the Latin America side, we will advise to be more open to the new recruitment. We have noticed that maybe the way of recruitment is happening maybe needs to be upgraded somehow, because we are seeing like new voices getting lost in the pile. So. And it's normal that within an industry you start like recommending people and stuff like that. But that's why we start to get like a close circle that it's like all the same
People always.
not necessarily the same ideas, but the same perspective.
And that-
So we will advise like the leadership to like maybe try different ways to approach new talent, like scouting in universities, or like open more like the ways that people can apply, or they can show your work. So it doesn't become just like, oh, I know someone that can apply to this and this. That will be a great way to get newer voices, because I also feel like they need it, you know. Even, maybe not all leadership knows it by now, but they really need it, because we start to like want to hear more newer stories. We're getting more acquainted to new points of view. So it's like you need people that knows from this side to bring it to the table. So just be more open and figure a new way to get to know talent. That's it.
I hope they listen to you. Yay. And now we can begin questions, everybody. Okay, red hair, crown, girl, person. She said.
Hello, it's my first time seeing you, so hi. I want to ask, as a perspective of a student, how can fight or combatir the censorship of experiences and queerness and the... Can I say it in Spanish?
Sí, a ver.
¿Cómo combatir la censura de vivencias y experiencias de personas divergentes en la animación?
Okay. How to combat all the struggles of what? Of censorship within all of the transgender violence. How can we fight against it and just
I mean,
change it?
That's a huge question. I mean, a great question, but a huge question. And I guess on the theme of this morning is build a team, because you can't fight it alone. So figure out what your community is, what your network is, and then I think it's, you know, there's a certain kind of, you have to think strategically. You have to think about who do you have contacts with, where do you have influence, how can you use that to advance, you know, the cause. And then I think the really simple answer would be just keep saying it, just keep speaking, just keep bringing it up, and you can wear down that wall by it and get other people to say it. And it's the more it's talked about, the more comfortable people are with different ideas and different ways of being. And, you know, I think, again, building the network of other people who are talking about it as well. I mean, if I was going to do like a really simple first step, I would say don't be censored. Keep talking.
Don't be censored. I love that. Yeah. Okay. Dr. Simi. Aviéntalo. No, no sé.
I'm a little bit nervous. So, first of all, thank you, because
all of you inspires a lot of people that is queer, that is part of the LGBTQ community, and you know, it's kind of difficult because it's a really difficult industry, and I just want to thank you. You inspires me, you inspires all of these people, and I just want to ask you, if you have one advice for all of us that, you know, we're different in this industry and it's difficult, and I just want to know if, sorry, there is, you know, some advice that you can give us, some of the people, because it's a difficult industry and a lot of people is bad, and, you know, it's a bad world, and, you know, we just want to be...
Can I have this one? I always just say that I strongly believe that it's not that we're not alone, you know, like you feel so different at first because we were just so used to one way of seeing the world, just for men and for women. Like we were always like, we had this idea of this is how it's supposed to be. So when we felt like, oh no, I don't quite belong to that idea, we felt like so ostracized. But the good thing now that we have this technology, these spaces and these groups is that we can realize that we're not so different, you know, like we maybe feel like strange and different in the same way. I feel that's something that really taught us Turning Red, because it's a movie that has a really cringy moments of girls, you know. And I just remember seeing all the conversations on Twitter being like, oh yeah, I was just like that. And it was so many of us that it was like, oh, okay, so we were all super weird when we were in high school. That's great. So first of all, you're not alone. You're like surrounded with people. So just just get to know them, and as they say, form communities, and you will realize, like as we are all doing right now, like, okay, it's more nuanced than just what we were told before. Yes, so that will be my advice.
And I just want to add, like, real quick, just to give you hope, because we're not as bad as you guys think. No, really, really, really. This is not for sure, but the things that we've been studying for our survey has shown us that the animation industry, it's the only one in Mexico that it's open to every people, you know? You're always gonna have a community while you're still be working here, okay? So, like Renata said, you're lucky because you're not alone. And it doesn't matter what you think, what you prefer, what you would like to wear, while you keep working as a team and help us to tell the stories, that's all that matters. So don't lose hope, you know? You're in the right place.
Guy with the blue shirt on the back, glasses, yes, you, my friend, estás salvado. No, me he hecho ya.
Bueno, ¿puedo hablar en español y traduces, porfa, para llegar a la pregunta? Gracias. Soy su fan, me gusta todo lo que hacen, porque me gusta mucho que implementen eso, porque todos somos humanos, nadie merece discriminación. Yo lo que trato con mis amigos es tratar de que si vamos con compañeras, cuidarlas para que no se sientan desprotegidas. Hay que también tratar de cambiar ese chip, ser más educados, respetar a la mujer, ya que ellas son mayor influencia y parte de nosotros, y siempre hay que tener como un gran respeto entre todos, porque al fin y al cabo somos personas, somos humanos y tenemos un gran corazón. Y eso es lo que me gusta mucho de Red, es que lo implementa, como también se ve en Adventure Time con Princess Bubble and Marceline, and it's a very example. But yo estoy muy orgulloso de todo eso, y mi pregunta es, aparte de este chip que ya tenemos, bueno, creo que un 50%, porque aún hay que trabajar en otras personas, en otros hombres y así, ¿qué podemos hacer para mejorar ese tipo de chip y aprender a querernos en todo esto del LGBT? Bueno, yo soy demisexual Y esa es mi pregunta.
Okay. So what can we do as guys, or like in general, like the guys, what can do to be more open to all of this, to not offend also, no? And be inclusive. Well, as a guy, I don't know, because I'm not a guy. No, but really, listen, I think that many of all of you young people, really, you already have that chip, you are seeing it, and I love that. I love that because now I feel more comfortable now talking about and being myself, and I'm sure I hope everybody slowly becomes more and more comfortable with that, because really, it's like we're talking about this. We're talking about this. That's the first step, you know? And so we are accepting it, and I think many of you are very respectful about it. I think just maybe a little literature, exactly, the inclusive language. Let's learn about it a little bit. At first, I was also like, I don't get it, and then I start thinking about it, and then I meet people that are like saying, because I don't feel represented, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. I am gonna put that effort, and I am going to be more open, and I think we all should. Well, that's my opinion, but yeah, no.
Oh, can you hear me? Oh, there you are. I have a very simple answer, and it's a quote from a Muslim activist whose name is escaping me, but Sued, I think is her first name, and it's pass the mic. The best thing you can do as somebody who sits in a position of power in any situation, and by the way, a lot of times that's because of your gender, but it could just be that you're in a leadership position or something else. The best thing you can do is to pass the mic. Stop talking and hand the microphone to the next person.
Simple. Yes. All right. Let's see.
Solo tenemos ya tiempo para una pregunta más y ya.
Just one. ¿A quién quieren? You choose. I cannot do it.
Okay. Oh, we have two fighting, like, pointings.
Oh my
okay,
God.
Let's go. Wait.
Can we have two questions? One on this side and one on this side.
Sorry. Oh, yeah, we haven't got anybody over there, have we? Oh.
Let's choose her.
Yeah. Let's do the two hands over there, and then we'll come back over here. Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, I know.
Qué difícil.
Hi, so I'm on the, I have autism, sorry. So I'm really curious about how do you see the industry for people like us that struggle with mental illness or something like the spectrum? How do you see the industry? That's really my question.
I mean, I do think sort of, and it's a tough challenge. It's a tough question because I think there's culturally and societally we need to do a lot of work in that area and to understand it and to understand what the experience is, what's the support that's needed. And then on top of that, you have to look at it is an industry. And it is like, especially we're doing production, and production is unforgiving about once you get into production. So, but with all of that, I think that's the general state of things. But with all of that, I do think that there is an openness in animation that makes it possible to figure all that out. I don't think we've figured it out yet at all. I could tell stories about different people that I've worked with who have struggled, and we tried our best to help them, but because of the struggle, it didn't go as well as I would like it to have gone. So my experience is that it's not, we have so much to learn.
Sorry, everybody. I just won.
Well,
you can be here. ¿A quién quieren? Ay, qué feo escoger así. Mande. ¿La de está en dónde?
Well, thanks for choosing me. And as a woman who's been pitching female-led series, what would you say to the men that are usually, or what could, as a woman, could we say to them when they are like, but where's the male perspective? And like, we don't want to tell the male perspective, we want to talk about girls. What can we say to those men that want to force that, like, for there to be a man in the story? Like, I don't know, like, very weird that they try to force like a male perspective in a female-centric story. What can you say to those executives or those men?
I have several good answers to that. So it's the conversations I have all the time. So is the mic working? Hello? Hello? Oh, there we are. I would just project like theater. So a few things. One, boys and men show up in equal or larger amount to films and television shows that are female-led as much as male-led. So you never lose the male audience, first of all. So you don't need a male perspective to attract the male audience. So first of all, from a business perspective, that's one fact. Second fact, and there's all data to back this up online, I'm not making it up. Second fact is that if you think about it, having the female perspective is also inclusive of the male perspective, right? If you think about this, right? Because we actually don't ever exist like in vacuum. So what I always try to do is reframe it, which is by having the female perspective in the show, what you're actually engaging in is what has traditionally been known as the feminine. And the feminine exists in men as much as it exists in women. And part of why men show up for women-led projects that are engaging sometimes in the feminine ideal is because they themselves are connecting to the feminine inside of themselves. And so it's not a give and take, it's all. We all have the pieces to each other. And so your characters who are beautifully etched, right, and they're well thought out and they're well-rounded, are going to speak to both the masculine and the feminine, which is going to attract your audience, hence the data that men and boys show up for female-led projects. So there you go.
That's a great ending.
That's better. So I guess we have to go. But we can, I know?
You know, we'll hang out outside if you guys want to talk some more.
We're moving outside. Ay, gracias. Ay, perfecto. Pues let's go outside, everybody. ¿No? Or what? Gracias.